Let me first of all say there is probably no one in Scottish politics that's had a better relationship with Keir Starmer or a closer friendship with Keir Starmer than I have. There have been too many incidences where the wrong judgment calls have been made. There have been too many mistakes, and that is distracting from the vital work of government, and it's also distracting from the big choice that people in Scotland have to make in 3 months' time, and that's why I think it needs to change in Downing Street. I am proud to have played my part in removing a Tory government that was doing so much damage to Scotland. And having a Labour government matters. I am proud of my Scottish Labour MPs who did the hard work, persuaded our fellow Scots, ran a historic and successful campaign, and who have spent every day since fighting for Scotland's interests. I'm proud of these Scottish Labour ministers serving at every level of government, delivering for Scotland. I want them to stay in government because I said right at the start that my first priority and my first loyalty is to my country, Scotland. That's why they must continue to defend and protect Scotland's interests. Keir Starmer is a decent man, and it is no secret that I have always got on well with him, and he has dedicated his life to public service. I have also dedicated myself to public service, and I need to decide what I'm willing to accept and what I'm willing to tolerate. The people of this great country, Scotland, are crying out for competent government, for transparency, for honesty, and for delivery. They want to see politics that is open and accountable. They want to see leaders who put the national interest before themselves. That is the standard I will always apply. In 3 months, we have an election that must be about one thing and one thing only: Scotland. That is my duty, that is my priority, that is my loyalty, and that is Scotland's choice. I think the reality is, Glenn, that there are so many achievements of a UK Labour government, so many good things that are happening across our country, but if you ask people, they can't see them and they can't hear them because the leadership in Downing Street has become a huge distraction. And I've had to think about my own priority, and my own priority, my first loyalty, is to Scotland, and Scotland needs to fundamentally take the opportunity for change here in Scotland in 3 months' time. Yes, I spoke to the Prime Minister earlier today, and I think it's safe to say that he and I disagreed. And let me also be clear that Peter Mandelson is not someone or something I want to be associated with. I met him in his capacity as the ambassador ambassador to the US because that was the right thing to do in Scotland's interest. But should he have been appointed the ambassador? No. Should he be a member of the Labour Party? No. Should he have a seat in the House of Lords? He shouldn't, and it's right now that he is investigated by the police. Look, I've obviously spoken to those in my own team. I have had many conversations with many figures across the UK Labour family, both in government and out, and I've been really honest with them about my view, the situation we're in, how I believe this is intolerable, and that I am going to do what I think is right for my country, Scotland. I could have chose to stay quiet, to keep the head below the parapet and just carry on as if everything was fine for the next 3 months. But my first loyalty and my first priority is to Scotland. And Scotland so desperately needs a different kind of government in Scotland. Well, I've spoken to many figures both in and out of the Cabinet. It is for them to decide their own view and what they choose to do or not do. I'm making my own decision based upon my own view, being my own man. And I'm going to put... not at all. And it's for others to do their own decisions and make their own minds up about what they feel is tolerable. This isn't good enough. It needs to change, and I'm going to do what's right by my country. This is not a coordination. I'm not speaking to others about what they do or don't do. That is for other people to decide. Ultimately, it's for those in number 10, those around the Cabinet table and those in the UK Labour Party to decide what happens next, the process, the timeline, or who comes next. That's not a matter for me. The only job that I'm concentrating on is making sure that we change the government here in Scotland, remove John Swinney and the SNP from office, so we can take a different approach here in Scotland.
If this was wrong, will you resign if Keir Starmer doesn't step down?
I am standing to be Scotland's First Minister. I'm being open about my view. I could choose to keep my view a secret. I could choose to brief in private. That's not the approach I take. I'm doing what I think is right. I'm doing what I believe is my first priority and first loyalty to my country, Scotland, and I'm being my own man, making my own decisions. It's for other people to decide their own view. Well, let me first of all say, there is probably no one in Scottish politics that's had a better relationship with Keir Starmer or a closer friendship with Keir Starmer than I have. He is someone that I have campaigned alongside, worked alongside for the last 5 years in my role as leader, someone that I campaigned ferociously for to make sure we could get rid of a Tory government, and someone who I have supported in the last 18 months. So does this cause me personal hurt and pain? Of course it does. This man is someone that I regard as a friend and who I have a certain level of loyalty to. But my first priority and my first loyalty has to be to my country, Scotland. And that's the decision I have made. In terms of the election on the 7th of May, the two candidates for First Minister are me and John Swinney. And that's the choice people have in Scotland. A third decade of the SNP with all the failure that we have seen, or a First Minister that's going to put Scotland first, Scotland's towns, cities and villages first, and Scotland's NHS and public services first. That's the platform I'll be standing on, and that's what I hope to persuade people of over the next 3 months. So I have known Peter since around 2021. I obviously spoke to him in Washington when I was there to defend and protect Scotland's interests, partly through Tartan Week, partly through the negotiations at the US-UK trade deal and all the importance that has for our country. I didn't appoint him US Ambassador, he was appointed as US Ambassador, and it was right that I had those conversations with him to protect Scotland's interests. But is that someone that I want to be associated with? No. He has betrayed this country, he has betrayed the party he was once a member of, and he has betrayed the public in terms of his actions and his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And to the other point you make, it is now for others to decide any process, any timeline, and who the next Prime Minister may be. I'm going to spend all my time concentrating on removing John Swinney, changing the government here in Scotland, and making sure we deliver the new direction Scotland needs. Thank you all so much.
People decide he should stay, what would you vote?
Well, that's for them to decide. I'm only answerable to one group of people. That's the people of Scotland. That's who I serve. That's who I stand for. That's who I'm campaigning for. And that's the people I want to deliver for. I only have one relationship and one loyalty that matters most to me, and that's to Scotland. Thank you.